Welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're tackling a question that I'm sure has crossed all of our minds at some point. When are you officially old?
Yeah.
And to get some interesting perspectives on this, we're turning to, well, the internet.
Of course, where else?
Right. Specifically, a Reddit thread with over 1,000 comments.
Wow, 1,000 comments.
1,000. Some are funny, some are, well, a bit more serious,
I'd imagine.
but they all get you thinking. And one thing that jumped out right away from the top-voted comments,
What's that?
there's no magic number.
It seems like age really is just a number, at least according to Reddit.
Right. And a lot of people brought up how relative old is.
Like how a 25-year-old might seem ancient to a 5-year-old.
Exactly. Or how someone who seemed old to us years ago might be, well,
Gone now.
yeah, or much older. And that we're moving along that same timeline.
It is kind of a mind-bender when you really think about it. Like one commenter shared this anecdote about an old photograph, of their teacher from when they were like 10. Back then, they thought this teacher was ancient. But looking back, they realized he was probably in his 30s.
Wow. Really puts things in perspective, huh?
Sure.
But before we get too philosophical, there was another theme I noticed.
Okay.
A lot of people defined old by physical limitations.
Like,
I knew I was old when, and then they'd list something their body couldn't do anymore.
the classic signs of aging. Can't stay up late, hangovers last for days, that sort of thing.
Exactly. One even said, I knew I was old when I started making involuntary noises bending over.
Okay, that one's pretty funny. And relatable, probably for a lot of people.
Definitely.
But physical decline, of course, is a natural part of aging.
True.
But what's interesting is how many people talked about how staying active, both physically and mentally, makes a huge difference.
Makes you think of that saying, you're only as old as you feel.
Exactly. But then, is there a difference between feeling young and actually being young?
That's a good question, and it kind of ties into another point that kept coming up.
It's that.
The idea of life events as markers of feeling older.
Makes sense.
Like your kids turning 30 or receiving AARP mail, those sorts of things.
Even if you don't feel old, those milestones can be jarring.
Absolutely. And speaking of milestones, how about the comment about old school music now, including songs from the 2010s?
I saw that one.
It really shows how much the idea of old is always changing. And not just music, someone else mentioned humor.
Oh, right. How younger generations might not get older humor.
Exactly. And that kind of speaks to that feeling of, well, not quite belonging to the younger generation anymore.
So does that automatically mean we're old then?
Good question. Some people on the thread were in their 70s and 80s and still felt vibrant and young at heart.
Inspiring.
But then, how do we balance that with the very real changes that happen as we age, both physically and mentally?
Well, that's something worth digging into further, I think. So many of these Redditors seem to be, grappling with reconciling their inner selves with the outer changes they're seeing. One even mentioned, they said they knew they were getting older when they started making involuntary noises while bending over.
Oh, I saw that one. It's those little moments, aren't they?
Right, like your body's just giving you a little reminder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Time marches on, whether we like it or not. But there were comments about the mental and emotional side of aging, too.
Oh, yeah. Some people talked about feeling, diminished or struggling to connect with who they used to be.
Which I think brings up a really interesting question for us all. How do we even define our identities as we age? I mean, are we still the same person we were in our 20s or 30s?
Right.
How do we reconcile those changes while still honoring who we are at our core?
I think a lot of people wrestle with that. It kind of ties into this idea of, confronting our mortality.
Which some people brought up as the whole point of a midlife crisis, right?
Yeah.
Realizing our time is limited can be a powerful motivator, though, to really make the most of the present.
Absolutely. It's not about denying that we're getting older, but more about figuring out how to thrive in each stage of life.
It sounds like a lot of people in this thread found that thriving through connections with other people.
Yeah. Family, friends, even online communities like this Reddit thread.
Makes sense, though, when you think about it.
Definitely. Human connection is so important, especially as we get older.
It's almost like sharing our experiences, whether they're good or bad, helps us feel less alone in all of this.
For sure. But one thing that struck me, even with over 1,000 comments on this thread, there wasn't really one answer to the question, when are you old?
And maybe that's the point. Maybe it's different for everyone.
It really is personal, isn't it?
I think so. What matters is how we feel about ourselves, how we choose to age, how we find meaning in our lives as we keep growing and changing.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there.
It's about the experience, not the number.
So thinking about that, I'm curious, at what age did you last feel truly young? And what made you feel that way?
It really makes you think. Even as we get older, those feelings of, I don't know, youthfulness,
Yeah.
of just being open to anything, those are still there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, they can come from the most unexpected places.
That's true.
Yeah.
For me, I think it was when I first started traveling by myself.
Oh,
Yeah, there was this amazing feeling of freedom, exploring all these new places, new cultures. I just felt, I don't know, so alive
makes sense.
and young. Yeah,
That's such a great example. It really speaks to how new experiences, even if they seem small, can keep us feeling young.
you're so right. Sometimes it's just being with people you love, or even just taking a walk in nature.
Those moments, those connections, they really do go beyond age. It's like
Yeah.
a reminder that life is precious and it's never too late to appreciate the beauty around us, no matter how old we are.
This whole deep dive has been, wow, really eye-opening. I feel like I have a totally different perspective on what it means to be old now.
Me too. It's been such a fascinating look at how society views aging, but also how we experience it individually.
And I love that we've just scratched the surface here.
Oh, for sure.
There's so much more to explore.
Definitely. It's an ongoing conversation, really.
Exactly.
And we'd love for you to be part of it.
Yes. Share your own thoughts, your own stories about what old means to you.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to share it and subscribe to Voices of the Soul.
You can find us on all your favorite podcast apps.
And for more thought-provoking content, check out Shauna Pelage on YouTube.
Okay, so until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep embracing life, no matter your age.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We'll see you on the next deep dive.